Okay, we got one. We got one. They got one through. If they're more fucking husks. God damn it. Okay, well. Okay. Fading Husk. 1 mana 0/1. Immobile, elusive. When you play an ally, kill me to grant it my stats and positive keywords. And then the Demacia one is just the same with tough. Okay. Huh. So we still don't know what husks do, right? I thought they were main deckable. I'm glad I figured that out yesterday. So we know they have something to do with Evelyn, right? They're teasing something with Evelyn because they have Runeterra as part of their card code. The only issue is we just don't know, like, what we're supposed to do with them until then. So, like, we don't know if these are truly going to be restricted to just Evelyn and just Runeterra, or if you're going to have some followers that are able to make these husks, and then you'll be able to use said husks to win the game, basically. So, like, you could put Elusive on an Ionian unit and have a card that generates it without having to run Evelyn. That's primarily what we're looking at here. So that's just what I'm saying while we lie in wait for whatever's coming next, you know? And hopefully we'll be getting that answer within a couple days. Hopefully. Mikael's Blessing from League of Legends. 3 mana burst speed Targon. Grant an ally +1/+2 and remove all negative keywords from it. I've been waiting for them to print this card for a while. It seems like silence is a keyword. Yeah, okay. That's... So we finally have our anti-silence card in Mikael's Blessing. Does it remove Frostbite? Yeah, it'll remove Frostbite. It'll remove anything that's considered a negative keyword. So this would remove Ephemeral, Immobile, and can't block and can't attack, and silence, I guess. The only issue with this, right, is the most prevalent silence in the game right now, Minimorph, also transforms your unit. And it won't undo that. The only issue I'm seeing with this is it too similar to Passage Unearned? I would not be shocked if you didn't know what this card did before I just mentioned it, because nobody plays this card. Passage Unearned is a 3 mana fast spell that obliterates all units that were summoned but not played. If your opponent's playing Harrowing and you have Passage Unearned, you just stop that dead for 3 mana. But it's those very specific situations where you have to be able to use that, right? And so it's sort of the same idea of, like, this is a niche situation. This has niche uses, and as a result, it's not worth running because the niche you run into with it doesn't come up enough of the time. The same issue might become prevalent with Mikael's. Because, yes, it's gonna be really good to have that anti-negative keyword, and this also gets saved a little bit by being a +1/+2. But if you don't run into a deck that doesn't give you negative keywords in any way, this is a lot more of a dead card, right? It only gives you that stat buff. And at 3 mana +1/+2 feels kind of bad. So it is saved a little bit by having that extra stat boost, but it's just the concept behind the negative keywords, you know? And is that too niche for this to see play? Okay, Scavenged Camo Cloaker. Grant an ally Elusive and Nexus Strike, draw 1. Okay, so it's 1 mana more expensive than Sumpworth's map, which I'll point out, this card already doesn't see play. But in turn, you get a draw effect on Nexus Strike. You could maybe get away with putting this on Ezreal? But Ezreal already has Elusive, so you're kind of losing out in that regard. What's a unit that gets insane value out of this, you know? And the only card I can really think of is Middenstoke Henchman. The 5 mana 5/4, Nexus Strike, create an exact copy of me. Because you already want to give that Elusive so that it can get its Nexus Strike effect off. And then just giving it the draw 1 in addition to that, and then creating another copy with that same stat line, that same Elusive, that same draw 1. That's a pretty good effect, honestly. That's a good effect if you can get that. Yeah, I don't really have like anything to say other than that. It's just kind of Kinku Student, 2 mana 3/1. When another ally gets barrier, give barrier to me this round if I don't have it. Or, well, I misread that card, but same idea. On day 1 of reveals, I was talking about the vanilla card that was Spell Shield Evolve, and it was a 2-mana 3/1, and I was like, well, this is just going to get chump blocked. And, well, once you do get it evolved, it's still just going to get chump blocked. In this instance, I think this card is okay. And there's a reason why, and the reason is it has card text, you know? It doesn't come with Spell Shield, and Spell Shield's a fantastic keyword, but the ability to just give this thing barrier by giving something else barrier is very good, you know? Your Shen level ups are gonna go a lot faster as a result of this thing. Like, say you're in a block situation where you've got enemies all around you, you know? And you're like, shit, I don't have enough to block here, and I need to keep these units alive because they're about to rally or something, right? In that instance, you could Spirit's Refuge, like, your Shen or something. And then this Kinku student also gets that barrier. It doesn't get the lifesteal, but it still gets the barrier. And that is a really, really positive effect. You want to be able to sort of spread out barriers as much as you can. This lets you do that. You want to be able to get as many barriers as you can to level up Shen. This lets you do that. Like, this card is going to be pretty good. It gets a barrier every time you play Shen, too. And Pantheon, for me. That's important for me, because I play Shen Pantheon. I think this card is going to see play. If Shen manages to sneak his way back into the meta. And they've been buffing him bit by bit. He might find his way into the meta with this. I don't know if it'll be with Fiora again. It might be with Jarvan, honestly. J4 Shen was already a deck. And I could see it coming back. Okay, Moral Support. 4-mana burst. Costs 2 less if you've supported an ally this game. Give an ally barrier this round. Well, I was just talking about how they were printing Shen support, and that was going well for them, right? If you've supported an ally, this is the cheapest barrier in the game. I don't think there's another card that does barrier for 2 mana. I think the closest you get is Prismatic Barrier, which is just give an ally barrier this round, and that's 3 mana with Lux. So if you haven't supported an ally, you're paying 1 more, and that's a little worse. But if you have, you're paying 1 less, and that's the cheapest barrier in the game. And that's really good for your tempo. What the intention of this card is pretty much, if you have played and supported an ally with Shen, you have a 2-mana barrier. Because in most decks that you'd want to run this with Shen, so that you can get the barrier triggers. This is just a barrier trigger for Shen, basically. And it's pretty much saying, once you've played Shen, this card costs 2 less. I mean, if you play your cards right, if you have Shen in hand, right, you have this Kinku student here on board. You play Shen, turn 4. Shen has barrier, this card has barrier, one other card that you've already played has barrier. You go for your attack. And that other card that I was talking about gets barrier, as long as you have 3 units. Get your attack off with them, they all come back to your board. Turn passes. You use this card on Shen or your random third card. Kinku student gets it. Shen has leveled in 2 turns. I don't think that was possible before these 2 cards got printed. Shen is back in the meta. I think with all the small buffs he's been getting, he got his boat, he got his barrier, and now he's getting 2 cards printed for him in this expansion. Shen's back in the meta. I think he's going to be in the meta this time. And it's probably going to be with Demacia, and it's probably going to be with J4. That's my guess. Last card of the day is Demacia, Royal Decree, give an ally +2/+2 and challenger this round, or summon an Honored Lord. Okay. They've been having more fun with these choice cards, right? They had, what was it, Strategic Execution from Worldwalker, which was the Stun 2 or Summon a Legion General. Giving an ally +2/+2 and challenger this round is a very nice effect, especially at 3 mana. That's a... Hold on. The more I'm looking at this, the more this seems a little undercosted. +2/+2 as challenger is very fucking good. That's a 4 stat increase. I'll grant it's not the 5 of, like, Sharpened Resolve, right? Which is the Noxus card. But you're also giving the challenger keyword, meaning this can pick its target, so you can effectively buff up your... You can buff up your card very nicely, go for the challenger, and get that payoff, right? It is focus, which stops it from being on the same level as something like Sharpened Resolve, because you can't play it while already in combat, or while a spell's going on. It's not a protection spell. It is a pure aggression spell. And then conversely, if you really need it, you can also summon the Honored Lord, who's the 3/2, first time I challenge an enemy, give me barrier this round. It's interesting. This is another burst blocker, but it's not burst in the same sense that, like, Eye of Nagakibouros has been, right? Spawn 2, draw 2, 5 mana, burst speed blocker. This is a focus speed blocker, which really means this is a focus speed attacker, right? You're not going to be able to get this off in between rounds. Your opponent starts an open attack. You can't play this as a blocker. You can't rely on this as a blocker. But you can rely on this as a surprise offense. So, like, let's say you have Jarvan in hand. It's turn 6, you bank your spell mana, and you've got this card. You spend the 3 mana, you summon the Honored Lord at burst speed. Even though your board is completely empty, you're able to summon your Honored Lord at burst speed. You don't have to spend unit mana to get a board going, and then you just attack with it, and your Jarvan comes down. Yeah, they're really just printing Shen Jarvan support, huh? The Challenger and the stats on this is very nice. The only downside to it is you can't play it defensively, which is why you play things like Sharpened Resolve and Sharp Sight. This looks strong. I agree. This looks like a really strong card. Yeah, this is a really good card. The one downside to it is the focus speed, as opposed to burst speed. But having the flexibility between Honored Lord or this incredibly good stat buff and keyword, yeah, that seems pretty good to me. I'm interested. I'm interested. You have me interested. You have my attention, Riot. I'm looking forward to Shen. I believe in a Shen supremacy.